I don't know why Oklahoma's an underdog against Texas. Maybe they think John Mateer isn't playing. Guess what? It doesn't matter.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Another curious ranked-unranked matchup to keep an eye on, a showdown in the Big 12, all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get up to $300 in bonus bets. Check them out at FanDuel.com. So, Oklahoma, Red River. This game has lost a lot of luster from what it usually has. That's not Oklahoma's fault. They've done what they should do to this point. This is Texas's fault. I have no confidence in Arch Manning. None. I think I've been pretty open and clear about that. But if you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe to the channel. Also, I have no confidence in Arch Manning. How little? Well, I joined the guys at Locked On Sooners, Jay Smith and John Williams, to talk about this game because I wish it had bigger stakes, but it feels like it's had some air taken out of the balloon. I'm still going to watch. It'll still be fun. Rivalry games can get crazy. Maybe this will be the one. Who do you think I'm taking this week?
Spencer, first I got to ask, where did you have Texas ranked in the preseason?
Do I have to answer that question?
Yes. You have to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had them power rated pretty high in the SEC. I didn't make a preseason top 25 this year. That's going to change going forward thanks to the assistance of the man on my stage right here, Jay, who has more graphical capabilities than myself. But yeah, I had Texas preseason number 2 team in the SEC because of what they had on the defensive side of the ball. You had Arch Manning had just been sitting and watching from a veteran quarterback for the last couple of years, and now he's ready with, not the best weapons Texas has ever had, but what should be good enough weapons led by Ryan Wingo, and I expected him, like most people, I think, to look more like Dante Moore at Oregon, and instead he looks like Arch Manning, and that's not a good comparison right now. So I did have Texas pretty high coming into the year, but I'm off the train.
I mean,
that's always a plus.
I mean, everybody was hyping up Texas. So it's not like you're the only one that's out there that was on a ledge, but you're on our show and I just had to bring it up. But
that's totally fair. Totally fair.
He was the only one on the ledge. We're going to go ahead and just blame him for everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's been interesting to see this Texas team this year, through 5 games. They've looked good against lower level competition. They've played, 2.
Have they?
I mean, looked okay. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm just nice. I'm not like some of the other guys on our network that just take every opportunity to just dunk on a team. I'm sorry.
John, you're nice?
John does seem
talk about it then.
John does seem like a very nice. Well, it's just, they played UTEP and it was a struggle. The game where Arch Manning was back, where he fixed himself, flexing on the guy, was Sam Houston, who's winless in Conference USA. Like, that's the best Texas has actually looked in a game this season, and that's just started. It's one thing to, be like DJ Lagway and how Florida's looked, where it's inconsistent and there are flashes of there's no flash of greatness with Arch Manning outside of a couple of throws. There are no games. DJ Lagway just played a game where you watch him and go, oh, there's the guy some people picked as a Heisman Trophy winner this year. What game do you have for that with Arch Manning right now? Sam Houston State? Congratulations. If you didn't put Houston right there in the name, people wouldn't know where it was located. So, and I bet most people don't even know what conference they're in or what conference they were in before they went to Conference USA. I know because I've covered them many times, but it's been surprising how bad it is. It's one thing for it to have been a struggle, but I don't think Arch Manning is Texas's quarterback in 2026 if they're serious about winning football games.
Well, that's very interesting. Okay, so when it comes to this offensive line, as we've kind of gone into this, this season about Texas, that was the one thing that a lot of people pointed out that replacing 4 guys in the NFL, and you're going to hear me repeat this all week long. You've heard me say it all week long because it is the thing that a lot of people have tried to tell Texas fans, and we're starting to see that. Now, Florida was able to go out there and be pretty dominant in the trenches. Oklahoma's considered to have one of the better ones out there in the country. You think Oklahoma can repeat what Florida did or do it even worse?
100%. I like Oklahoma's defense even more than Florida's. I do think Florida's defense has been good this year. I don't think that's a unit to scoff at. I think their head coach is somebody to scoff at. And as a team, they're just aggressively mediocre, inconsistent up and down. And that's why I don't think Billy Napier should be their head coach in 2026. I didn't think he should be their head coach coming into this season, but he got that late season surge against teams that had kind of thrown in the towel, and then they were like, oh, he figured it out. Look at that. Yeah, he's got it, and they're just forgetting they're Florida. So, for Texas here, I worry about the offensive line a lot in this matchup. Obviously, you've got a unique crowd situation with Red River, and it's such a uniquely awesome rivalry game in college football. One of the best, top 5 in the country easily, probably top 3. I know Oklahoma fans and Texas fans would probably say it's number 1. There's some heavy hitters up there, but it's high on my list. It is very, very high on my list as someone who talks about college football from a 30,000-foot view. And, Arch coming into this game has an opportunity to flip the narrative and make guys like me stop yapping so much. I have no confidence that that's going to just show up in this game against Oklahoma. I loved the Sooners defense last year. I loved it coming into this season. I have loved what I've seen from them on that side of the ball. Nothing to not like. It starts up front. It doesn't end up front for me when I watch what Oklahoma does well. So I'm just not, I can't talk myself into Arch Manning is going to have his coming out party here against Oklahoma. Like, I've seen enough. I've seen enough at this point in the year. One game against Texas, all right, it's a bad game. Let's see if you progress. But when we struggle against UTEP, when you're flexing on somebody against Sam Houston, and then you go play Florida, and it's the same sort of stuff, he's going to make a couple special throws a game, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, when you go back to last year and you look at Arch Manning versus Power 4 competition, it's not boded well for young Arch. Still a very young quarterback, but yeah, it's not been great. He's not lived up to the 5-star number 1 overall prospect billing. And you'd think that after several years of sitting behind Quinn Ewers, sitting in Steve Sarkisian's meeting rooms and learning, that he'd be better prepared. And you'd think that Texas's offensive line would be able to be better than what it is. Even with all of the turnover, you'd expect that. It just isn't, it's not showing up yet.
No.
And yes, they've got some injuries at running back, at wide receiver, whatever, but Texas is supposed to be recruiting at the highest level, as high as anybody in the country. And they're supposed to be able to just replenish every single year because of all the recruiting. It's not happening.
No, it's not. And I think the injury concerns at receiver are fair. Running back, also, again, fair, not a top 2 or 3 problem on Texas's list this year. Why did the defensive line get pushed around by Florida last week? That was bizarre. That's a unit that has crazy amounts of talent, and they were just straight up not good. And I mean, the offense had a couple of moments, but I mean that defensive front just got bullied by Florida, and that's not something that should be acceptable for the Longhorns defense. Jay, you're making a face. Why are you making a face, Jay?
Well, I'm making a face mainly because Texas went in the portal and got 5 interior defensive linemen. 5. That tells me they had 0 going into the spring if they felt they needed to basically replace everybody on that line. And kind of made me think that's why they were getting pushed around. They brought in a whole bunch of new dudes. Now, maybe in a year, once they really get into a Texas system of lifting and or whatnot, maybe they'll get better. But I mean, bring in new dudes, a lot of new dudes.
Maybe. I'd counter with last year I watched Oregon's defensive line be the best the Ducks had in a decade, and 2 of the guys, both interior starters, were transfers in Derek Harmon, Jamari Caldwell.
2. You said 2.
Yeah.
They went and got 5 because they didn't have anyone.
Fair.
That was my point.
That's fair. I also look at the way that defense played against Ohio State on the road and say, yeah, that's what this defense actually has potential-wise, and I think that unit is still in there. It's still good. Maybe not quite as good as I thought, but anyway, the problem for Texas is not on that side of the ball. They had a bad game, but the margin that Texas is operating with right now is one where the offense is doing so little, the defense has to be perfect. It's like for most of my life watching my beloved Seattle Mariners play baseball. You better not give up more than 2 runs, pitching staff, because you're getting 3 from the offense and you're going to like it. And game 1 of the ALDS against the Tigers, you can look at the decision that Dan Wilson made and say, shouldn't have let Kerry Carpenter face George Kirby for a 3rd time. And then you go, well, end of the day, the staff went 11 innings and gave up 3 runs and 2 through 10. That's got to be enough. And that's how I feel about Texas. You can nitpick the defense and say, this got to be better, okay, you're always looking to improve. At the end of the day, the problem is they cannot consistently move the ball because Arch Manning is not good enough at quarterback. He just isn't. Always a great time with those guys. And yeah, I'm taking Oklahoma to win the football game. And I'm picking another top 20 upset this week. First, this episode brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. You talk about a game changer, next-day delivery is that. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you just don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And all the games I talk about going into every week here on the show are available to be wagered upon over at FanDuel. You have got point spread, you got money line, you've got point totals, you got player props, you got all sorts of great stuff that FanDuel has for you. And guess what? If you want to fade my picks every week, I can't blame you. I'm way under 5. I'm at 19-25 on the year. Yikes. So just fade my picks every week and you'll get free money. You're welcome. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Check them out at FanDuel.com. My everydayers out there are going to remember what I said last week on the show about sometimes Vegas knows things and maybe we should listen. They're trying to tell us something this week. USC's a 2.5-point favorite as an unranked one-loss team to 15th ranked Michigan. Now, in my top 25, I have both of these teams in there. I do. Because I think USC's pretty good. They've impressed, and they only lost on a game-winning field goal to a top 15 team in Illinois, who I do think is going to get beat soundly this week by Ohio State. But why would USC be favored? Well, you got a couple of things there. First of all, USC is at home. Michigan is making that dreaded 2-time zone travel. It hasn't gone particularly well for most teams that have gone at least 2 time zones away from the one that they're accustomed to. And so Michigan's got to overcome that. Last year, Michigan fans will remember, they went to the West Coast and played a Washington team that was as good, maybe not as good as them, frankly. Lost the football game. You do not have as difficult of a home field advantage to deal with down at USC as you do up at Husky Stadium. That much is very true. You do, however, have a better football team that you are going to play this year than you did last season in Seattle. Jaden Mayava has been great. My expectations for him were pretty tempered. I didn't think he'd be sensational. I didn't think he'd be awful either. I thought he'd be, I think he's okay. He's completing 70.5% of his passes, averaging over 300 yards a game, 11 touchdowns to 1 interception. USC lost some weapons in the offseason, and what I had heard was that they weren't exactly sad about that because it allowed them to be a little bit more targeted in their approach to actually get the ball to the playmakers they do have more consistently rather than feeling like they have to get everybody the ball all the time. That's how the offense has looked. Because when you watch Mekhi Lemon play, he's one of the best receivers in college football. You better not make a top 5 best receiver list in the country and leave Mekhi Lemon off of it. Go watch what he did to Illinois. I know their secondary is not outstanding. I don't know who's defending the catches that this guy's been making. It has been sensational. Then you throw in a Jacoby Lane that can make the sensational catch himself, and suddenly you've got a receiver tandem that is as good as USC needs it to be. Now, Maiyava's playing well, the receivers are good, and that's not what matters. It's not. Maiyava is playing better than Miller Moss did last year. That is true. The way the offense operates without Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson in there is better. That is true. USC's running the ball better. Yeah, that's also true. But what didn't come to play for USC last year in Ann Arbor? The run defense. That's what has to change here. And when you play Michigan, it's a very simple Michigan's like Superman. And I watched the new Superman movie recently. I liked it because it was different than the other Superman movies I've seen, where any fight scene with Superman, unless he's going against another Kryptonian, is really not that interesting to me, because you either have kryptonite to weaken him or you don't. That's the calculation. If you don't have it, then you are not going to win. And if you do have it, you are going to win. It's not that exciting to me. It doesn't leave me on the edge of my seat. That's why I didn't think Batman versus Superman was all that good. Michigan is Superman. That's not to say I don't like watching Michigan play football, because I respect the toughness, the physicality. They're very creative in their run game as much as any team in the country, and I enjoy watching that sort of stuff. I really do. The reason they're Superman is their offense is running the football. You can either stop the run or you can't. If you stop the run, you stop Michigan, because they're among the leaders in the country. They might even be the leader in the Power 4 in drops this year. Bryce Underwood is going to be a superstar if he finds some pass catchers on the perimeter in the coming years. I have been bullish on Bryce Underwood since he got recruited. I called for him to start all offseason coming into the year, and I love what I'm seeing so far. There are freshman moments. There are a lot of areas of growth. That's to be expected, but I never felt like this Michigan team was ready to go win a Big Ten or national championship this year. They're not. Are they good? Yes, they are. I think they're going to lose this football game. So USC's run defense this year has held opponents to under 110 rushing yards a game. Have they seen a rushing attack that is anything like what Michigan brings to the table? No, they certainly have not. Michigan State does not run the ball like Michigan. Illinois does not run the ball like Michigan. You've at least got a couple of Big Ten games under your belt. But the way the Wolverines play, Justice Haynes, I loved this addition in the offseason for the Wolverines. I always thought it was the right fit, because at Alabama, Justice Haynes was underutilized and hidden in an offense that didn't mesh with what he does well. And he went to a place that just wants to hand the ball off. He breaks long runs every single game, it feels. Every time I look up on a college football Saturday, I feel like I'm watching Justice Haynes 1 to 2 times a week breaking a run of 50 or more yards for a touchdown or not. Usually it is for a touchdown. Pretty sure he has 2 or 3 75-yard touchdowns this year. He's that kind of guy. He's a former 5-star running back. It's a great fit. Do I think that USC's body of work this year alone is enough for me to feel good about them beating Michigan this week? No, it's not. That's not the only thing that gives me confidence in the Trojans. It's the fact that they're at home. It's the fact that their quarterback is playing very well. And it's the fact that Michigan's passing attack, I don't know that it's going to get there situationally. So it's improved for USC. They're at home, like the offense. And I don't think Michigan is quite there. Now, I've picked against Michigan twice before in big games so far this year. I've been right once, and I was wrong one time. I was wrong picking them to lose at Nebraska. I'm taking them to lose at USC. I believe USC is a better team than Nebraska. I think all of these teams are occupying tier 2 of the Big Ten. I think in tier 1, I don't know what to do with Penn State. Please don't ask me to do that. In tier 1, you've got Oregon, you've got Ohio State, you've got Indiana. In tier 2, I think you have this collection of teams and probably Washington as well. maybe Iowa, maybe, but they'd be further at the back of it. So USC is out for a bit of revenge in this spot. Trojan fans will remember well, they were one play in Ann Arbor last year with an offense and a defense worse than what USC is going to put on the field on Saturday, than what I feel good about USC in this spot. So give me the Trojans. I don't think it's a super high scoring game. 28-24, USC beats Michigan. I'm sure Michigan fans will have no thoughts on that, but 2 weeks in a row, I said it was Cincinnati and Iowa State last week. Hey, unranked team favored over ranked team. More often than not, that is going in favor of the unranked team. I think USC will do that this week and be back in the AP top 25. I already have them inside my top 25, so just consider that. Also consider what's going to happen in the Big 12 this week. First, this episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls and all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV. You can drive with confidence through almost any season, which is exactly what you want to do. You don't want to lack confidence during any season as the weather starts to turn. Mazda gives you that confidence. Like the players of your favorite team, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. You're going to love how Quo, formerly OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts, like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Utah with another big home game in the Big 12. JT Whistle of Locked On Utes is here. And JT, I mean, Utah has finally won a Big 12 game this year. It felt like that took way too long. They're trying to win one at home.
It was the second game of the year in the Big 12.
Yep, took too long. Took too long.
Against your precious Red Raiders, I might remind you, who you somehow don't have in your top 8 of your power rankings. I was surprised about that. But
no, those are not power rankings. Those are ratings. Those are ratings. Power rankings, very, very different. I do have them inside the top 10 because they're a very good team. But I want to bring the attention here to a once legendary Pac-12 matchup, RIP, Utah and Arizona State. And this has got playoff and conference title implications for both. I don't know that either can survive a loss here and wind up in the college football playoff. Certainly not as an at-large, but even then, with the schedules they have going forward and the caliber of teams I feel like they are, I think playoff hopes are on the line for both of these teams.
I totally agree. I think Utah, in some ways, you could say they disappointed just with how bad it got against Tech. Granted, that was a much like you look at the Houston versus Tech game, right? And I know Connor Wegman got hurt, but that game was out of hand a lot earlier than that Utah Tech one was. I remind you, that was 10-13 at one point in the fourth quarter. And then Tech really stretched out, right? But Utah was right there. And Utah has annihilated the bad teams they've played, which is still a skill, because I mentioned, Houston, then they go on the road and they barely squeeze by in Oregon State. So I do feel like it's a justification why Utah is still one of the first teams out of the AP poll receiving votes. This is a good Utah team. I think it's a good Arizona State team. That Mississippi State loss has actually aged very well. I thought it was going to age like milk. It's kind of starting to age like wine, because that's a Mississippi State team that nearly went on the road.
Didn't surprise me.
There you go. Yeah. They nearly beat Tennessee, right? So that's a good loss. Now we look at that. They've beaten a TCU and a Baylor team I like, but at the same time, Spencer, like, they just have not looked anything close to dominant. I don't know if I thought they'd look better than they have so far this year. They didn't look great against even like a Northern Arizona. Shout out Big Sky. Like they have not looked outstanding this year. So I do think this is a massive game because another loss for either of these teams, college football playoff, hopes in the drain. And I don't see how an Arizona State were to lose this game, and it's only their first Big 12 loss, but with the other gauntlet of a schedule they still have in Big 12 opponents, I think it's a must-win for each of these teams. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And, for the Big 12 I've talked about this year, I don't think there's a 10-2 team that's going to get in the playoff. I just don't know where the quality out-of-conference wins are. Like, where would they be? Which team?
Utah with UCLA this weekend?
That's a good one.
There you go.
That's why we bring them on, folks, for wisecracks like that. Anyway, back to serious conversation. I don't see that. I haven't seen that all year based on what happened last season. BYU 10-2 with a road win against a playoff team, and they're left out and really not even seriously considered for the playoffs. So I think you've got to have two 11-win teams squaring off in the conference championship game, and I don't think either of these teams is even going to win out after this game, win or lose, because of the schedules that they have. Here's why I like Utah to. Oh, I didn't set that up as well as last time, but
the hat's back.
The hat is back. The hat is back for Utah. Here's why. This is less about Utah and more about Arizona State. Arizona State feels like they're teetering right now. They have escaped. They have scrapped by, and I'm not refusing to give them credit for those wins because I picked them to win both of those games. I'm picking them to lose here because I feel like this is the game where the mistakes that they have been making and the poor play that they have shown for some of the game, and then they get it right, I think that catches up with you here. I think Utah is locked in. As long as Devon Dampier can get going, then I think Utah will be just fine. I don't think this is going to be a super high-scoring game. This is not a traditional Big 12 matchup where you're going 45-40. I don't think you're getting to that level. And Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson, those guys have been playing good football. We knew that coming into the year. It's the rest of the team where I just look at Arizona State and I go, it's not bad. It's above average, but it's nothing better than above average. That's the way I see it. I look at Mississippi State, slow start. Baylor had to come back. TCU trailed, found some magic late, had to come back. I don't think that magic continues at Rice-Eccles.
I totally agree. I would even say I don't think Sam Leavitt's been what we thought he could be. This was an all-time bad year for like preseason quarterback hype, by the way. I think of all these guys, the Drew Allen, Will Nussmeier, Arch Manning, like, oh my gosh, like if you had preseason hype as a quarterback,
Cade Klubnik.
Cade Klubnik, exactly. Like all of these guys. And Leavitt, I do put in that group. I don't love QBR. Like I don't think QBR is everything. He is 61st right now in QBR. That's not great. Like that's crazy to think this guy that a lot of people thought was going to be a top 5 QB in college football is outside the top 60 in QBR. He has thrown 3 picks. He's been sacked 12 times on the year. Some of that's on his offensive line. Some of that also is absolutely on him, though, and the plays he tries to make and just do too much at times, too. Also, sacked 12 times. You have 4 against TCU. One of the guys who leads the nation in sacks, top 5, John Henry Daly, resides in Salt Lake City. That's a place that gets pretty wild and crazy as well for opposing offenses. A reminder, we are just 2 years removed from Arizona State coming up to Salt Lake City, and they got beat 55-3. The Sun Devils are a much better team than when that happened a couple years ago. But they are currently outside the top 8 in scoring offense and scoring defense in the Big 12 right now. They played some good offenses. I'm not saying they haven't, but that's where, like we said, they have not been as impressive. Tyson's amazing. No one else on their team receiving-wise over 200 yards on the season. Even Utah has 2 pass catchers who are over 200-yard receiving marker. Last year, Utah let Tetraroma McMillan come into their building, and they held him to 6 catches for 50 yards. I think Morgan Scalley, one of the best DCs in the country, is going to have a good plan to contain Jordan Tyson. I think they're going to be able to frustrate a Sam Leavitt, and I think this is the game where we see, hey, that Utah offensive line is still a top 10 unit. They're not going against a top 10, maybe even top 5 D line in what Texas Tech had, and I think Utah establishes the run. They're top 10 in rushing yards per game right now, and I think Devon Dampier, the bye week, fell at a good time, getting that ankle a little healthy. I think Utah's going to win, and I think they got a good chance to cover that 5.5 spread.
Yeah, and I look at Utah in this spot, and the only thing I wonder about, because I'm not concerned about the defense, I'm not concerned about them being ready to go. You get Whittingham at home off a bye. I'm not worried about any of that. It's Devon Dampier. You know, the Texas Tech game was bad in the trenches. Texas Tech manhandled them. I think that's more about what Texas Tech is rather than what Utah isn't, and they've shown that in the game since then. But I looked at Devon Dampier in that game and thought, man, that's more than just Utah's offensive lines getting pushed around and they don't have a running game. That's something's not clicking, something's wrong, game's moving too fast, G5 to power 4 jump. I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I watched him in that game, and when he had a long touchdown called back on a weird-looking play that was Devon Dampier magic, and after that, which of course didn't count, it was a lot of nothing.
You're absolutely right. It was nothing, and it's concerning. But at the same time, I mean, Tech is holding teams to 11 points per game right now. I think what I learned from that Utah Tech game is that Utah is not capable right now of beating playoff caliber teams, and I absolutely believe that's what Texas Tech is. I think they are in a class of their own, the Big 12 Conference. Hence why you already said, Spencer, you don't know if you see another Big 12 team getting in right now. Especially after what Cincinnati just pulled off, and I like Cincinnati, but that's a game if you're Iowa State. Good. I think you got to win that game. So to me, that was more so Tech's defense than anything else, because Dampier has been crushing everyone else. And they have not played a lot of other good teams, right? Like West Virginia, not very good. I don't think Wyoming is very good. So that's where this is a really good test for Devon Dampier. But I already talked about, he was clearly at least a little banged up with that whole injury saga we went through a couple years ago. I know, another quarterback injury saga in Salt Lake City. Where have we heard that before, right? But I feel like he was a little banged up there. He's going against what will be a worse defense this week. And they're okay in their rushing defense department. Pass defense, all right. But we already talked about the big play gave up against Mississippi State. And they just haven't seen a rushing attack like this Utah offensive line. The key for Utah, get in third and manageable. I mentioned this stat on your show before, Spencer, but when they played UCLA, Utah was 14 of 16 on third down. Almost all of those were 3rd and 4, or like 3rd and short, basically. Versus Texas Tech, that number was 4 for 14 on third down. What happened? It was all 3rd and long. I think this Utah offense is going to get themselves in third and manageable frequently because they are not facing a Texas Tech level defense. Utah is a good team. I think this is their opportunity to prove they are still a top 4 to 5 team in the Big 12 by playing what I believe is another top 4 to 5 team. And I do think they get this win and a statement. Let's not forget Devon Dampier grew up in Arizona and everything down there too. Kenny Dillingham, familiar with him. And man, ASU is trying to do everything they can to prepare for the weather right now. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the water bottle videos and everything going on, but I just don't think the Sun Devils are up to the task this week against Utah. They could win, but I don't see it.
You mentioned something in there that I think applies to what I've seen from Arizona State this year and is kind of what I was expecting. Not entirely, but kind of. Everything's just kind of, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's good enough. It's okay. It's all right. It gets the job done. That's what I feel like almost every unit is for Arizona State. Run defense, pass defense, run offense, pass offense, situational football, special teams. It's all just
fine.
Fine, good enough, but I don't think it's good enough to go overcome Utah in Salt Lake City. So I'll take the Utes in the return of my hat.
Hold them back in, baby.
Brought to you by the Game Caps. Check them out; they're awesome. So I'm going Utah 28-17. Nice. I like Utah. I think they get it done. You have a score prediction?
33-25. Utah Utes, baby.
33-25. That's a sicko score right there. I'm here for it, though. JT Wister, Locked On Utes. Great as always. Appreciate everyone listening. See you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.